Hey, hi everyone, and welcome. I'm really excited to have you here today. We have two amazing guests joining us who bring a ton of experience and insights. First, we have Michael. He's the head of affiliate partnerships at Smart Scout. Michael holds a finance degree and began his career at Bloomberg Financial Markets. And over the years, he has built brands in supplement, cosmetics, and functional food space before joining Helium's 10 leadership team. He later took an executive role at an e-commerce accounting firm before moving to Smart Scout. So all welcomes Michael. And then joining us from the Knock Knock team is Ariane. She's the senior business developer. And before joining Knock Knock, she worked at Amazon as marketplace manager where she helps sellers sales growth opportunities. Then she led both 1P and 3P operations in key categories such as books, electronics, and sports and outdoors, first at Amazon and later at an e-commerce startup, Merama, where she launched and managed a sub-brand from the ground up. And at Knock Knock, she leads the business development efforts, helping international sellers expand into Latin America. So today they will be sharing some really valuable tips, data, and strategies for Amazon sellers looking to grow beyond the US. And also we will have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop your questions and we will be reading them but answering them at the end. So, guys, I think it's time to start to dive in. But before getting into the Prime Day specific data and information, let's take a step back and talk about the broader opportunity. So, the first question for this webinar will be why Latin America is worth it. So, why should sellers start thinking about expanding into Latin America and growing its sales there? Ari, if you want to start.
Okay, nice to meet you guys. I hope we can add some knowledge to you and add some contributions. And starting with the question of why Latin America, well, Latin America is a massive and underexplored opportunity for international sellers. Just so you know, the region has around 650 million people, and we do have 80% of internet penetration, so it's a huge audience that's already online and shopping. If we are talking about online consumers, we are talking about 351 million online consumers. And just to put the number into perspective, US has around 275 million online consumers, so it's more than US. Of course, we are talking about more countries, but yes, that's a huge opportunity. And that means that the space is wide open. And we do have a projection that by 2026, cross-border of e-commerce LATAM will reach 114 billion dollars, and this is massive. So we are not talking only about a future trend. It's something that it's happening right now. It's a high potential market with high demand and a lot of competition, far less competition than the US or Europe. So for international sellers, now is the perfect time to get in ahead and grow in Latin America.
Right. And Michael, what do you think that if I am like a US seller or a seller that has a strong presence in the US, why would be worth to think about expansion strategies?
My microphone on, sorry. uh, so, oh, beautiful. And first of all, thank you, Ari. That's really great info. I just want to build off of it. So, uh, diversification is definitely one thing, but also one thing that is worth really thinking about, especially as a U.S. brand, is that there is potential opportunity for your niche in Latin America. Specifically, we'll get to this example here in a second, for a greater opportunity within your niche. So, a quick analogy here. There is this book by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath, where he kind of describes the big fish, little pond effect. And so he gives this example of a really good student who is really interested in science. She goes on to go to Harvard or MIT, but is really, really struggling there. And so she makes a decision to go back to a state school, more near her home, and she really starts thriving there. She really gets the attention of her professor. Opportunities come along, and so basically, this is the same analogy here, and we actually pulled some data to help illustrate it. So we found, just as an example, hobby helicopters, so RC little helicopters in the U.S. That category about $640,000 a month. 21% growth rate. Actually, a little bonus here is that this category in Mexico, as you can see towards the bottom, 1.38 million pesos grew actually almost 900%. So that's not exactly what I'm trying to show here, but you can see that, hey, that category is growing a lot faster in Mexico in and of itself. But what I'm really trying to focus on here is the fact that the market share of these RC helicopters within the toys and games category in the Mexican marketplace is actually 3% versus 0.06% in the US. So when you have a lot more market share within category, a lot of good things come with it. Potentially marketing costs come down. So yeah, definitely wanted to highlight that that is a great opportunity in terms of expanding into LATAM. Potentially there's more opportunity within your niche.
Amazing. So we all know that Prime Day was first launched as a major shopping event in the US, but what many people don't realize is that it's also gaining significant relevance in Latin America. So the dates for Prime Day was just announced in Brazil and in Mexico, as we can see here. So let's dive deeper into why it's important for sellers to participate in Prime Day across LATAM. Ari, can you tell us how Prime Day has evolved in Mexico and Brazil over the past years? And of course, Michael, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, of course. So, Prime Day, as a background, was launched by Amazon in 2015. It was a 20th anniversary of Amazon, and they decided to do a sale. And it was a 24-hour event for Prime members with deals. But that event, they sold more than on Prime Day from the year before. They sold over 34 million items, and they realized that they should keep on doing that because it was a huge success. And what is started as a 24-hour event went from 24 to 36, then to 96 hours, and now Prime Day it's live on 26 countries. So I think that everyone can see the potential of Prime Day. And when we are talking about LATAM, in Brazil, the sales during Prime Day have broken records. The traffic has reached up to 3 million page views per minute, and the event was extended to 6 full days. And in Mexico, the growth has been just as impressive. The record we saw record sales last year, and new Prime signups as well. And when we talk about small and medium business, they alone generated over $181 million in sales during their event. So this event is becoming a big deal, not only in US, but also in Latin America. And this happens mainly because it brings together great prices and consumer trust. So just some information that you might not know, but I have worked at Amazon, and Amazon has very strict policy regarding their events and the deals that they show up for you, for the consumers. So Amazon only allows a deal to go live if it is the lowest price of the year. And if Amazon does see a better price on other marketplaces, they can drop your deal as well. That happens because Amazon wants to build trust with the consumers, and the consumers do realize that and do feel comfortable about that. And as a result, many shoppers actually plan their purchase around Prime Day so they can save money. And it's already becoming a second Black Friday in the region. Last year, Prime Day was so successful that we had a second edition here in Brazil. So for sellers, it's a perfect chance to get their sales, gain visibility, and get in front of new customers as well.
And Michael, why do you
Cool.
think that Prime Day is becoming a key shopping event in the region? Do you have any stats to show this?
Yeah, so looking at our data and just analyzing a lot of the big brands specifically, such as Samsung, you can really see a huge increase in volume for the Prime exclusive deals. Like you'll see, maybe a dozen in June, and we're talking about looking at data from last year's Prime Day. We see a huge increase in volume in terms of price exclusive from like 12 in June to 200 in July. So definitely big brands are participating in Prime Day across LATAM. So smaller brands should do the same. All right, and
Okay,
that's the slide I mentioned. Here is the example.
great. So yeah, Prime Day has definitely been gaining momentum in LATAM. And now moving forward to Amazon growth and what insights and what data can show us that Amazon has been growing and has been like gaining significant relevance over the years. Maybe guys, can you tell us some information for sellers who are wondering if it's worth to expand into Amazon Mexico or Amazon Brazil? Do you have any insights on this?
Yes, absolutely. I really like this question because, I'm always thinking about analogies, as you might have heard a second ago, and it always makes me think back to that interview with Jeff Bezos before he started Amazon, where they asked him how did he come up with this, and he's just like, I was at the hedge fund, I saw the internet space growing at 2,300% year over year, and I thought to myself, I just have to do something to tap into that growth. So when I started looking at, well, we currently just have the Mexican marketplace on SmartScout, but when I started looking at it to answer this question, I saw that there were over 500 categories that are at least $1 million a month on Amazon in Mexico that grew at least 50% in the last 12 months. And then there are 75 categories that are over $1 million a month that grew over 200% in the last 12 months. So, there are niches where it's just an absolute no-brainer to go into LATAM, and we have some of those exemplified here. So you could see, in fact, radio controlled helicopters, um, TVs, electronics. Um, you can check out this list on the slide.
I was muted, sorry. Ari, and what does this growth and opportunity mean for international sellers?
Well, for international sellers, it does come up as a huge opportunity because Latin consumers really enjoy products from abroad, and they are eager to discover international products. So this is a great opportunity for sellers to dive into. I must say that local options for international products are usually limited or more expensive. So I think it's a really strategic move where sellers can grow brand awareness, reach new customers, and well, have a whole lot of opportunities there.
Amazing. Um, well, so you might not know this, but during our event called Unlock Latam last year, John Kaplan, the CEO of Pioneer, shared that less than 10% of US company actually export. And that is an insight that I always remember the thing that many US companies and sellers don't sell in other markets and are only focused on the US. So this brings the next question, and is that what are some of the risks or of focusing solely on the US market without developing like a sales diversification strategy, especially when it comes around major events like Prime Day?
Okay, so well, I have worked with plenty of sellers at Amazon, and even working at Amazon, I would always advise the sellers to sell on other marketplaces as well and have their own stores because you can't rely all eggs on one basket. And I know that US is a great market and well, there is a lot of sales there, a lot of opportunities, but depending only on it, it's just risky. We all know that on the United States, the main marketplace is Amazon. After that, we do have a couple ones, but they are not as significant as Amazon. So if you want to have your sales in the US, you should be at Amazon. But if your Amazon account gets suspended or flagged or restricted, your entire operation could be at risk. So that's why you should have other options and also have other marketplace because you could shut down with your costs if you don't have other options. And also, there is customer fatigue. So we all know that on Prime Day, there is everyone wants to be in the deal section, and there's a lot of pages there, and buyers in the US often expect like extreme discounts and really fast shipping, so that's a lot of pressure on sellers' margins. Also, if you are planning to sell a lot, you must invest on ads, and CPCs are quite high, lowering the margins, and the competition is also insane. So standing out during Prime Day requires really aggressive spending and deep discounts. Sometimes sellers will even have to invest to sell and won't have a good margin over that. So that's why I think all sellers should consider other marketplaces, other markets, so they don't miss opportunities. And well, while everyone competes in the US, Latin America is growing really fast with far less competition and with a lot of customers eager for international products. So, yeah, that's my recommendation to all of you that are watching.
Amazing. Michael, do you have any other thoughts in mind about risk of focusing solely on the US market?
Yeah, actually, what I have is an example of a big brand that, even though, well, an example of a big brand that did diversify, and they're happy they did. I don't know if you have the slide on the next page
Yeah,
for
sure.
EcoFlow. So, so when I was doing some research in Smart Scout, kind of to see which brands had international presence and which didn't, I found this particular brand. It's a huge brand. They make like solar kits, so they're really expensive. I think the starting price was like $900, but it's like a battery and solar cells. Anyhow, what you're looking at here is their performance over the last year. So you can see huge growth, but then they got suspended. And if you could go to the next slide, so you see that was over 1 year, still showing a growth of 155% year over year. But if you could go to, oh, there we go. So on the next slide, we can see after the suspension, they actually are down 55%, 6 months over the 6 months prior. So um, they haven't recovered after this suspension. Meanwhile, on the next slide, we can see they also did take a good move by diversifying into the Mexican marketplace. And if I could, yeah, and you could see that in the Mexican marketplace, they're actually still growing at a healthy 128%. So just wanted to exemplify
Great
the
insights.
benefits of diversifying.
Um, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Ari. And now let's dive into some of the key strategies for succeeding into Latin American market. First, let's talk about the categories and products that perform best in Brazil and Mexico, especially in days like Prime Day. Can you share some examples and insights into this? Ari, maybe you can start with Brazil. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. So for Brazil, when we are talking about the categories that goes best, we are talking about beauty and personal care. So perfumes, hair care, skincare. Also electronics, so high ticket items like notebooks, speakers, cameras that are quite expensive here in Brazil. Then we have also toys and games from main brands like Mattel, Disney, Lego that comes with high prices, and also home and kitchens like home and kitchen category like small appliance, kitchen gadgets, things like that from brands from the US usually. And then for Mexico, Michael,
Um, I mean, I'm seeing the same thing in Mexico. Electronics, beauty, and personal care definitely are the leaders as far as top category performance.
Sorry. Thanks, guys. And for those sellers that are wondering about the biggest differences between the US market and, for example, Mexican or Brazilian market, what are some trends that differ or like strategies around products that differ? Maybe, Ari, based on your experience, like with Amazon sellers, you can share some insights on that.
yeah, of course. So um, if you are talking about United States, we do see domination made by Amazon devices, and here we are talking about Echo, Fire TV. These devices are not entirely common here in Brazil, but in Latin America it's growing, but it's still not the best category right now. And also in United States, it's Prime Day. It's quite driven by back to school because of the timing. It's usually right before the vacations, and then there is the back to school. So people usually enjoy the promotions to shop on that. And Michael, if you want to add about grocery,
Yeah, absolutely. So we are seeing grocery as a big category in Amazon US for Prime Day and across the board. It is fairly interesting because US is obviously the most mature Amazon marketplace, and I would say looking at it over all the years, it seems like it does take some time for the consumers to trust getting your groceries on the internet, so to speak. But it's certainly growing, and definitely the grocery brands take advantage of the Prime Day opportunities. Um, so that is a potential opportunity for LATAM, Mexico, and Brazil in the future. But I think those brands do have to sort of monitor the sentiment of the consumer in terms of ordering the groceries online.
Right. So let's move on. Um, Now let's talk about selling cross-border because many of the sellers and brands that are showing us here um, doesn't really know really how to develop a strategy around cross-border sales. So the next question would be for Ari. First, what are the main pain points and challenges that sellers face when they are expanding to Latin America, and what things they need to consider, um, which obstacles do they encounter, so how should they like prepare for selling cross-border in Latin America?
Okay, so if you are a seller and you are looking to expand, I would highly recommend having someone to help you on this process because it's not something simple. I cannot lie. Um, I will talk a little bit more later about what Knock Knock does, but talking about the main challenges, the first one I will say it's the compliance. So each country has different custom laws, taxes, import rules, and if you get something wrong, you can face delays or fines, even having the product retained. So you must check this with quite details to make sure you are complying with everything. Also, there is the logistics problem. I think it's one of the biggest. So cross-border shipping takes longer and costs more, especially if you are doing without scale. So you would definitely have a really high shipping cost, and you would have to dive into the best options that do offer um, trackability of all the steps of where the product is going and if it passed the customs. So it's quite a big, compli- quite complicated. Then we have the marketplace compliance. That's a big one. You must have local stores on all marketplaces, and if you don't follow the country-specific rules on these marketplaces, like restricted categories, product classification, localization of listings, your account can be restricted or suspended. So you must take that into consideration. And also, there is the customer service and that must be made on the local language, so Spanish or Portuguese. And you must comply with all the marketplace rules, and that means having local return points on all marketplace that you are operating and offering these returns. If you do not offer, you must refund the full amount that the customer has paid. So yes, that's quite something complicated if you take a look with these difficulties, but Knock Knock does have a good solution to all these factors. We'll talk later.
So can you share more details on how does a partner like Knock Knock simplify all these cross-border complexities?
Sure. So Knock Knock has a lot of people that are looking into every detail from all the countries and checking everything that's going on in these countries to make sure that Knock Knock is operating according to compliance and according to the country rules. And for the sellers, it's quite simple to operate with Knock Knock because we do use our own accounts and um, our own accounts and local accounts to list products, meaning that the seller doesn't have to worry about anything like tax IDs, restricted products, or local regulations. All the seller needs to do is to upload their products into our seller center, and then we handle everything else. We have a compliance team that is monitoring everything regarding restricted brands that cannot be shipped from United States to Latin America or restricted categories, looking into all the rules from the marketplace to make sure that we are compliant, making sure that all the documentation is accurate so we don't have any issues with customs from all the countries, and also listing and following all the marketplace policies regarding localization of products, regarding categories, and all these specific details. As for logistics, well, we have a lot of orders shipped from United States to Latin America. So for the sellers, it's quite simple. The sellers only need to ship to our US hub, and after that, we handle everything ourselves. So we handle international freight, customs, and final delivery. The sellers don't need to do anything. We also have local return addresses on all locations, on all the countries that we do operate. And we have customer support in Spanish and Portuguese for the customers to have the best experience possible. So basically, to the sellers that are watching and are not quite confident about expanding, with only one integration seller, you can get access to over 20 marketplaces across Latin America, and we do everything for you. So you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, and I think now is the perfect time to join Knock Knock and take advantage of all the marketing efforts we are doing for Prime Day as well. So, moving into the next question about marketing promotion and strategies for Prime Day, Ari, maybe you can give advice on how and what are the best ways to promote products ahead of Prime Day in LATAM in order, to get the buybacks and boost sales around these such important days.
Okay, I'll share what I have always shared with my sellers at Amazon. The first step is to upload all your products. You must list your products really early because the sooner they go live, the more time they have to gain visibility and qualify for campaigns. Amazon is really strict about what products are eligible or not to Prime Day, and if they do not have visits, they cannot be eligible for Prime Day. So list your products right away, and then focus on your hero products, your strongest products, to make sure that the content it's optimized and it's with the best photos, best description, bullet points. Make sure that the listing is really good. And once you have this settled, um, don't lower your prices directly when you are close to an event like Prime Day or Black Friday. Always consider using coupons because they can lower the price to the customer, but you are not lowering directly. So if you do want to make a deal afterwards, you can make without lowering so much more your price afterwards. And one key point here is if you have the option of an account manager, talk to them really early to get your products and your deals into curated campaigns, Prime Day emails, and on the Prime Day page, because I have seen cases of brands that really grew so much on Prime Day. They really changed their life, changed their company. So make sure you take these steps to ensure a good result.
Ariane, can you share a case study or a success story of a brand that did like improve their visibility and gain more sales for optimizing their listings? Do you have any case studies for this?
Yeah, we do have one case that we can share from the brand Latafa. I think that everyone knows by now, but it's an Arabic perfume brand, and this brand really took off on Latin America, not only on the marketplaces but also on the social media. And It started on the marketplaces by having the product really optimized with quite good um, videos, also images and description. It became the number one fragrance sold in Brazil, and right now I must say that it must be still the number one brand, but it became incredible result for a brand that wasn't even local and that nobody had heard of this brand. So it really shows how powerful Prime Day can be when you have the right product with the right price and with the right strategy.
Right. Now, Michael, I know you have a lot of different tips for sellers as well. So maybe can you share some of the top tips you can think of before Prime Day?
Yes, absolutely. I think Ari touched on some of these for sure, um, but they are important to go over. So, just general Prime Day tips. So, number one, you want to make sure that you're going to be in stock. As Ari said, you got to get in there early, have those listings ready, but you also have to have that inventory there, and not just for Prime Day, right? You want to have make sure that you're in stock after Prime Day, so it's not even Prime Day anymore, right? It's Prime per week almost. But you want to make sure that inventory in stock, as you know, if you're out of stock, your rankings are going to tank, and the hard work and discounts you gave are will have the opportunity will have been not fully realized. Listing optimization, you definitely want to take a look at those listings, make sure they're optimized for conversion or use a service. And then as far as setting up your prime deals, um, like Ari said, lightning deals need to be set up early, and they're usually quite expensive if you have access to them. So it might be because Amazon surprised us with the dates, sort of. Might be too late, but Prime exclusives are definitely available. And one thing to think about. So, earlier in the presentations, we showed kind of the maturity of the MX Mexican marketplace. Big brands, Samsung was the example given. Yes, they're putting out those deals, but smaller brands, there's still a lot of opportunity with the brands that are expanding in Mexico that are not doing it as much. So there's an opportunity to get in there and take advantage of those deals. As far as coupons and stackability, you definitely have to be careful there. Like Ari said, you want to be, if you're doing a Prime exclusive and then it stacks with a coupon, you might be giving up a lot more margin than you intended, or you might intend for it to stack. But that's a strategic thing that you should just, be aware of and know what you're doing there. Um, so I will end with the other promotions and retargeting. So Prime Day, Prime Week, great, right? But you want to take that hard work and give enough margin to raise your rankings and keep it in the long run. So you might want to do like sponsored brand promotions. But also after Prime Day, or actually even before, you can. There are some tools now that Amazon has for scheduling retargeting. So like sponsored display ads, for example, have a retargeting audience, and you can schedule that between certain dates so that it'll take the data from Prime Day. There's also options, I believe it's kind of like a retargeting option on coupons where you can target people that have added your product to cart during Prime Day during that period, but didn't check out. So I'd also retarget those people.
Amazing. Thanks. And Michael, this next question is for you as well. Which Amazon tools should sellers definitely use ahead of Prime Day and also in order to look at opportunities for Mexico, for how to grow sales on Amazon, which categories perform best, how sales are growing?
Yeah, so of course I'm biased, but I have to say Smart Scout. It truly is an amazing data suite, amazing software. It's a second mover in the space, so it's a bit younger than some of the major software out there, but that's a good thing because it's kind of built differently. If you, I don't know if I have a slide, if it's on the next slide, but one thing about Smart Scout is that it is not it's not like typical software out there. At least that's how I felt when I first saw it, where hey, you have this tool's for this and that tool's for that and this feature's for this and this feature's for that. Really what you get with Smart Scout is an access to our really powerful database. And you're able to do both macro and micro analysis in and the actual tools that we have are like injection points into the database. So you can you can use it for all sorts of applications on Amazon. Like wholesalers can use it to source brand opportunities very quickly. We've got, of course, private label sellers using us to look at their competitors, their categories. Even agencies use us. I specifically made the center a little bit ugly where it says market share because that is something so incredibly important from a business perspective. The more market share you have, the bigger exposure you have to customers, and actually your costs for advertising and customer acquisitions fall. So that's something always to be thinking about, and that's something that Smart Scout really exposes well. Um, so yeah, I encourage people to check it out.
Amazing, thanks. Well, so we are getting closer to the end of this webinar, but not before answering to the questions. So I encourage anyone that has a question about this presentation or about the Smart Scout or Knock Knock to drop them on the question section. I see that some people have already sent their questions. So I will start for a question that wasn't to Michael. Michael, how can I take advantage of a Smart Scout to identify which products should I sell on Amazon Mexico? I think you have already replied to that when giving the speech, but maybe you can refresh which specific tool can give access to that information.
Yeah. So it's great to get that question because it helps me reiterate kind of the power of flipping the script, if you will, in terms of, hey, you want to find out what products, and often you're looking kind of like deep in the weeds, but what if you flip that process and look at the market first? So in Smart Scout, you can use our subcategories tool where you can actually filter all the subcategories and niches on Amazon in Mexico, and you can find out the ones that are really growing. And that is, you always want to be selling in a stable or growing market because everybody's gonna grow. So you could really quickly look at Smart Sky. You can maybe start with a major category that you're interested in. The example we had toys and games, which was obviously a huge category, but then you can narrow it down to things like remote control helicopters, and you can realize, wow, that's a big market and it's still growing quickly. Let's get in there and let's take advantage of that.
Amazing. I see there is another question. This one is for Ari. Ari, it says, I'm interested in start selling with Knock Knock. What should I do to start to sign up?
Okay, so if you are interested on sign up, you can send me an email. I can get back to you. But the first step would be to know everything, like know all the steps, know if you are able to send the products to a warehouse in the United States, and like onboard you into all the details so you can be up to date, show the seller center. And then when you are all set up, you can upload your products and then we can start selling right away. It's quite simple, just like that.
Amazing. Then we have another specific question. It says, are there warehouses outside the US for Knock Knock?
Right now, we don't have other warehouse other than in US and China, but we are looking to expanding to other countries. So depending on where you are based on, if it is China or United States, we could be helping you out. But don't hesitate on asking us and sending us an email because we are looking to expansion right now. So maybe we could help you out in the future. That could be closer than you think.
Amazing. Here's another question. I think it applies for both of you. Says, do you have any tips on how to set the right prices for Amazon Mexico or Amazon Brazil?
The right price for?
It says, do you have any tips to set the right prices for products in Amazon Mexico or Amazon Brazil?
Okay. Michael, if you want to start with Amazon Mexico.
Yeah, that it's a little tough question because it is definitely going to be relevant to you. All I can say is that we're literally launching a product. We've kind of launched it already in beta, which can help you look at your and your competitors' products across a time frame and see how that fluctuated. Everything combined, like what their lowest prices were discounts applied, things like that. So I guess to answer that, I would say study your competition and act accordingly.
Okay, yeah, that's quite right. I would add that for Amazon, you do have a lot of tools for other marketplaces as well to control your pricing. So at Amazon, you have the automated pricing tool where you can set the maximum and minimum price and define your rules. Like, I want to be winning the buy box by 10 cents. And Amazon will lower your price until your minimum price, if applicable. And that means you don't have to be every time looking at the price and looking at the competition and lowering your price. It's something that's completely free from Amazon, and then you can take advantage of that. And also, yeah, um, I would say that Michael got a good point. That is to check your competition, check how you are regarding your competition, and make sure that you are offering a good price to your customer.
Amazing. We have one last question that says, which is the return policy for cross-border sales? I think this one is for Ari.
Okay. Regarding the return policy, you must follow the marketplace policy. Usually, the marketplaces request for a 7-day free delivery, free return to all marketplaces on LATAM. So, if you are selling on LATAM, you must comply with that. You must offer this free return for the seller, regardless of what happened. It's like a rule, a law here where the customer is allowed to return the product if they don't like it or if there is something wrong. And some marketplaces have additional policies, like if the product received was with defects, they can have up until 30 days to return. So you must check that out. At Knock Knock, we do comply with all the policies. So if a customer wants to return the product, we'll accept the return, and the return will be made through the local address that we have on the countries that we are operating on. And then if you are a seller that it's working with us, you may ask, like, what happens with this return? You can have the return sent back to the US if you pay the international label fee, label shipping, to have this item returned, or we can resell the product in the country of destination. So yeah, you do have a couple options.
Well, thanks, guys. I see we don't have any more questions, so I will leave uh, your email addresses. If anyone wants to get more information about Knock Knock, about Smart Scout, or had any question on this presentation, they can reach out to you. And well, thanks for joining, and thanks Ari, thanks Michael for all your insights and great tips for sellers, and thanks all of you that also made questions and sent uh, yeah your questions in the chat. So I hope you find this insightful and that you enjoyed it. And well, see you soon in the next one.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you guys.
I hope you enjoy it.
Well,
You
bye
too.
Bye.
bye.